The sky above Gotham doesn't storm tonight. It bows. Lucifer Morningstar stands atop the cathedral's spire, white suit pristine against the filth of a city drowning in its own sins. No wings visible, no hellfire, just presence, absolute and suffocating, pressing down on every soul below. In the shadows he's claimed as home, Batman stops breathing. His cowl reads nothing. His bones read everything. Run, they whisper. For the first time in 20 years, he almost listens. 1,000 miles above, Superman turns his head toward Earth. He doesn't know why his hands are shaking.
The price of freedom is
Lucifer
often
surveys
steep,
Gotham, the criminals, the crusaders,
paying.
the broken prayers rotting in confession booths. He's seen 1 trillion worlds burn. This one amuses him. Built on fear, he whispers, tasting the word. His smile cuts through the dark. Dressed as hope. The devil has arrived. The sky above Gotham did not storm that night. It remembered. Every lie the city had ever whispered, every prayer sent into darkness without reply, every silent scream buried beneath concrete and compromise, the sky held them all for one trembling moment. Then it exhaled, and something stepped through. Not fell, not descended, stepped, as if the universe had simply made room. Lucifer Morningstar stood on the cathedral spire, white suit pristine against Gotham's permanent grime. No wings visible, no hellfire, no declaration. Just presence, absolute, patient, and utterly without apology. He looked down at the city like a surgeon examining an old wound. "Fascinating," he murmured. "You've built a monument to denial and called it civilization." Below, in the maze of alleys that formed Gotham's true architecture, life continued its desperate rhythms. A dealer counted money. A mother prayed for a son already lost. A cop looked away from a crime he couldn't afford to see. Lucifer heard them all. Not their words, their weight. Every bargain they pretended they hadn't made. Every truth they buried so deep they forgot where they'd hidden it. The city was loud with things unsaid. He smiled and stepped off the spire. 3 blocks away, Batman froze mid-stride. His cowl registered nothing. No energy signature, no biological reading, no magical trace that matched any database compiled across 15 years of impossible encounters. Yet every instinct he'd honed in darkness screamed a single word: wrong. Not dangerous, not evil, wrong, in the way a word misspelled in your own handwriting feels wrong. He changed direction. The first miracle was small. A mugger named Dennis Chen raised a knife in the alley behind Morrison Street. He'd done this 43 times. 43 successes had taught him the rhythm: threaten, take, vanish. The world rewarded efficiency. Tonight, his hand stopped. Not from fear, from clarity. He suddenly saw the next 20 years. The prison sentence, the cell, the mother who'd stop answering letters after year 3. He saw the man he'd become, bitter, broken, blaming everyone except the hand that held the knife. The knife clattered to wet concrete. Dennis stared at his empty palm like it belonged to a stranger. Behind him, his intended victim ran. He barely noticed. "What the hell?" he whispered. Across the street, Lucifer walked past without glancing back. Batman found him at the corner of 5th and Cathedral, standing motionless while the city churned around him. Rain fell everywhere except within 3 feet of the stranger's white suit. "You've been following me," Lucifer said without turning. "Your heartbeat suggests you're deciding whether I'm a threat or a confession." Batman said nothing. Silence was his first weapon. Lucifer turned, eyes briefly catching the neon-like mirrors that remembered everything they'd ever reflected. "Ah," he said, "you dress like fear and call it justice. Who are you?" "An immigrant," Lucifer smiled. "A retired professional, a friend of free will." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one that matters." He gestured at the city. "You've spent decades fighting symptoms. I'm curious about the disease." Batman's hand moved toward a containment device. Experimental, theoretical, desperate. He stopped himself. Something in him knew. Technology wouldn't help here. "What do you want?" he asked instead. Lucifer's smile widened. "To see what happens when the excuses stop." A sonic boom shattered the moment. Superman landed 10 feet away, cape settling like a verdict. His presence usually commanded space. Tonight, it merely occupied it. Even he felt the difference. "I don't know who you are," Clark said, voice steady, "but this world has laws." Lucifer turned, delighted. "Oh, you flew! How wonderfully literal!" He stepped closer, and Superman felt something vast brush against his awareness. Not hostile, not friendly, simply larger. "Laws," Lucifer repeated. "Yes, I remember inventing a few." The air tightened. "You're not from this dimension," Superman said. "I'm not from this story," Lucifer corrected. "There's a difference." Batman moved between them. "Whatever you're doing to people, it stops." Lucifer raised an eyebrow. "I haven't done anything to anyone. I've simply made it harder to lie." He looked at Batman with something almost like respect. "You should appreciate that. You've built your entire identity around seeing truth in darkness. Truth I control." "Ah," Lucifer nodded slowly. "There it is." Before Batman could respond, the night split. A boom tube tore reality open 3 blocks east, and Darkseid stepped through. The ground cracked. The air burned. Omega energy simmered behind eyes that had watched universes kneel. "You do not belong here," Darkseid intoned. Lucifer turned with the expression of a man interrupted during an interesting meal. "And yet," he said, "here we both are." Darkseid raised his hand. The Omega beams ignited. Absolute annihilation, the mathematical proof of inevitability given form. They stopped 6 inches from Lucifer's face. Not blocked, not deflected. They simply reconsidered. Darkseid's certainty cracked visibly. "Impossible." "No." Lucifer leaned forward. "Inconvenient." He snapped his fingers. The beams didn't vanish, they reversed, curving back toward their source. Darkseid raised his arms, catching his own inevitability with a roar of shocked fury. The impact drove him backward, boots carving trenches in Gotham concrete. For 3 endless seconds, the god of apocalypse and the former ruler of hell stared at each other. "You built an empire on the certainty that resistance is futile," Lucifer said quietly. "What happens when certainty becomes optional?" Darkseid's eyes blazed. "This is not over." "Of course not," Lucifer smiled. "You'll need time to decide whether you're conquering because you want to, or because you don't know how to stop." The boom tube screamed open, and Darkseid retreated, not defeated, but destabilized. Superman stared. "You just gave him a choice," Lucifer finished. "Perhaps his first. The sky above Gotham doesn't storm tonight. It bows." Lucifer Morningstar stands atop the cathedral spire, white suit pristine against the filth of a city drowning in its own sins. No wings visible, no hellfire, just presence, absolute and suffocating, pressing down on every soul below. In the shadows he's claimed as home, Batman stops breathing. His cowl reads nothing. His bones read everything. "Run," they whisper. For the first time in 20 years, he almost listens. 1,000 miles above, Superman turns his head toward Earth. He doesn't know why his hands are shaking. Lucifer surveys Gotham, the criminals, the crusaders, the broken prayers rotting in confession booths. He's seen 1 trillion worlds burn. This one amuses him. "Built on fear," he whispers, tasting the word. His smile cuts through the dark. Dressed as hope. The devil has arrived. Day 2. The city woke different. Not better, not worse, sharper. Crime rates fractured unpredictably. Violence in some districts spiked. In others, it evaporated. A crime boss canceled 3 hits before breakfast, not from conscience, but from the sudden nauseating clarity that victory would taste like ash. A corrupt judge resigned by noon, unable to speak the lies his position required. Batman monitored it all from the cave, data streams painting a picture he didn't want to understand. Crimes of desperation are increasing, Alfred observed. Crimes of habit are declining. He's not stopping crime, he's making it honest. Is that worse? Bruce didn't answer. Lucifer spent the morning walking. He passed a church where a priest was admitting, for the first time in 30 years, that he'd lost faith decades ago. He passed a hospital where a doctor finally told a patient the truth instead of the comfortable lie. He passed a school where a teacher stopped pretending she knew answers she'd never questioned. Each encounter left something behind, not peace, but clarity. People cried, raged, laughed. Some broke. Some stood taller than they had in years. Lucifer watched it all without intervening. "You're enjoying this," said a voice behind him. He turned to find Wonder Woman, sword drawn, stance ready. Unlike Batman's calculated stillness or Superman's righteous tension, she radiated something older, the weariness of someone who had seen gods fail. "Enjoying is too simple a word," Lucifer replied. "I find it educational. You're destabilizing the natural order." The natural order was a comfortable lie. He met her eyes. Ancient met ancient. "You know this. You've watched gods manipulate mortals for millennia, calling it guidance. I'm simply removing the manipulation." Diana's grip tightened. "And replacing it with what?" "Nothing." Lucifer spread his hands. "That's the point. Nothing is terrifying. Nothing is freedom." He stepped closer, and for a moment, Diana saw something behind his eyes. Vast, tired, unspeakably old. "You were raised by gods who told you what to believe. I'm offering humans the chance to discover belief for themselves. Some won't survive that. Some aren't surviving now." Lucifer's voice softened. "They're just pretending." Diana lowered her sword slowly, not in surrender, in recognition. "You're not evil," she said. "That's what frightens me." "Evil requires intent to harm," Lucifer smiled sadly. "I'm simply indifferent to comfort." Night 2. The Joker found him first. Of course he did. Lucifer stood in the ruins of Ace Chemicals, studying the vat where a man had once fallen and emerged as something else. The air still tasted of old madness. "You're new," said a voice from the shadows. "I don't like new. New interrupts the joke." The Joker emerged, purple suit immaculate, smile carved into reality itself. He carried no weapons visibly, but then he never needed to. Lucifer turned with genuine interest. "Ah, the counterweight." "The what now?" "Every system needs chaos to function. Batman is order. You're entropy." Lucifer tilted his head. "Except, you're not, are you? Your performance." The Joker's smile flickered, the first honest reaction he'd had in years. "Careful, pretty boy. I don't like being analyzed. You don't like being seen." Lucifer stepped closer, and the Joker found he couldn't step back. "You tell yourself you're chaos incarnate, that nothing matters, that the joke is all there is. But chaos doesn't plan. Chaos doesn't repeat. Chaos doesn't need an audience." The Joker's hand twitched toward a hidden blade. "You're not chaos," Lucifer continued. "You're a choice you made so long ago you've forgotten it was a choice. Somewhere beneath the paint, there's a man who decided that meaning hurts, so he'd destroy meaning for everyone." "Shut up!" The blade was out now, pressed against Lucifer's throat. It didn't draw blood. It couldn't. Lucifer looked at him with something terrifying. Compassion. "You know what I find fascinating?" he said quietly. "Batman chose to fight pain. You chose to spread it. Both of you are running from the same thing. Neither of you will admit it." The Joker's hand trembled. "What do you want?" he whispered, and his voice, for one moment, held no performance. "Nothing you haven't already got," Lucifer replied. "The ability to choose something else." The blade clattered to the ground. The Joker stared at his empty hand, just like Dennis Chen, just like the judge, just like everyone who'd met Lucifer's gaze and found their excuses evaporating. "I hate you," he said. "That's a start," Lucifer agreed. "Hate requires honesty." When the Joker looked up again, the stranger in white was gone. For the first time in 30 years, he laughed without performing. It sounded like crying. The sky above Gotham doesn't storm tonight. It bows. Lucifer Morningstar stands atop the cathedral spire, white suit pristine against the filth of a city drowning in its own sins. No wings visible, no hellfire, just presence, absolute and suffocating, pressing down on every soul below. In the shadows he's claimed as home, Batman stops breathing. His cowl reads nothing. His bones read everything. "Run," they whisper. For the first time in 20 years, he almost listens. 1,000 miles above, Superman turns his head toward Earth. He doesn't know why his hands are shaking. Lucifer surveys Gotham, the criminals, the crusaders, the broken prayers rotting in confession booths. He's seen 1 trillion worlds burn. This one amuses him. "Built on fear," he whispers, tasting the word. His smile cuts through the dark. "Dressed as hope." The devil has arrived. Day 3. The Watchtower convened in crisis. "He's not attacking anything," Flash reported, data scrolling past. "Crime rates in Gotham are down 40%, but psychiatric admissions are up 300%. People are having breakdowns," Black Canary added, "forced to confront things they've buried." "That's assault," Green Lantern said. "Psychological assault." "Is it?" Superman asked quietly. The room turned. "He's not putting anything in their heads, he's just removing the noise." Clark, "I'm not defending him." Superman's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to understand." Batman stood at the window, watching Earth turn below. He hadn't slept in 60 hours. "He told me something," he said finally, "that I've spent decades fighting symptoms while ignoring the disease." "That's manipulation." "Is it?" Bruce turned. "Gotham has never changed. I've stopped 10,000 crimes and the city just creates 10,000 more. What if he's right? What if the disease is the lies we tell ourselves?" "Then we treat the disease," Diana said. "Not through force, through truth." "That's what he's doing." "No," Diana shook her head. "He's performing surgery without consent. Truth without compassion is cruelty." The room fell silent. Then every alarm screamed at once. The sky above Gotham cracked, not with thunder, with structure. Visible threads of light tore through the atmosphere, crisscrossing the city like a web made of certainty. People collapsed in the streets, overwhelmed by the sudden visibility of paths they'd never known were there. Something emerged, vast, faceless, woven from inevitability itself. It spoke without sound, and every mind heard. "This universe has a story. It will be told correctly." Batman recognized it immediately. Not from sight, but from feeling. This was what prophecy looked like when it stopped pretending to be gentle. Lucifer stood in Robinson Park, looking up at the entity with an expression of tired recognition. "Ah," he said, "the author shows itself. You have disrupted the narrative." "I've disrupted nothing. I've simply stopped reading from your script." The threads tightened. Across the city, people gasped as choice began to evaporate, futures collapsing into single, predetermined paths. A woman who'd decided to leave her husband found herself walking back to him. A man who'd chosen sobriety found a drink in his hand. "No!" Superman roared, landing between Lucifer and the entity. "You don't get to control them. I am not control. I am coherence. Without me, your universe fragments." "He's right," Lucifer said quietly. Superman turned. "Every story needs structure. Remove all certainty, and you get entropy." "Then why did you—" "Because certainty should be chosen, not imposed." Lucifer's eyes blazed. There's a difference between structure we build and cages we inherit. The entity surged forward. Choice without consequence is meaningless. I provide consequence. You provide predetermination. Lucifer stepped forward, and for the first time his wings unfurled. Not physical, but conceptual. Vast shadows that stretched across dimensions. You tell people their choices don't matter because outcomes are fixed. That's not consequence. That's learned helplessness. The threads tightened further. Heroes across the world felt their agency draining, their choices being rewritten. I could destroy you, Lucifer said calmly. I could snap my fingers and unmake the very concept of predetermined narrative. Then do it. No. Everyone stared. Lucifer folded his wings. Because that would be my choice, not theirs. He turned to Batman, to Superman, to Diana, to everyone watching. I didn't come here to save you. I came here to show you the chains. Removing them is your job. The entity laughed, a sound like books slamming shut. They cannot. They have never. We choose. Batman's voice cut through everything. He stepped forward, pulling off his cowl. Bruce Wayne stood exposed under the bleeding sky, face visible to the world, to the entity, to the threads that wanted to tell him his story was already written. I chose to become this, he said. Not tragedy, not destiny, me. And I choose to keep choosing. The threads around him shattered. Diana raised her sword. I am not the weapon of gods. I am the choice of mortals. Her threads dissolved. Superman stepped forward, heat vision blazing, not at the entity, but at his own bindings. I don't save people because it's written. I save them because it matters. One by one, across the city, people began to choose. Not easily, not painlessly. Some fell, some failed. But some, enough, stood. The entity screamed as its power fragmented, no longer fed by submission. It didn't die, it diminished, shrinking from absolute to possible, from mandatory to optional. You cannot. Stories need tellers, Lucifer said, not prisons. The entity vanished, not destroyed, but transformed. Probability still existed, patterns still formed. They were just no longer mandatory. The sky above Gotham doesn't storm tonight, it bows. Lucifer Morningstar stands atop the cathedral spire, white suit pristine against the filth of a city drowning in its own sins. No wings visible, no hellfire, just presence, absolute and suffocating, pressing down on every soul below. In the shadows he's claimed as home, Batman stops breathing. His cowl reads nothing. His bones read everything. Run, they whisper. For the first time in 20 years, he almost listens. 1,000 miles above, Superman turns his head toward Earth. He doesn't know why his hands are shaking. Lucifer surveys Gotham, the criminals, the crusaders, the broken prayers rotting in confession booths. He's seen 1 trillion worlds burn. This one amuses him. Built on fear, he whispers, tasting the word. His smile cuts through the dark. Dressed as hope. The devil has arrived. Day 7. Gotham breathed different now. Not healed. Healing. The distinction mattered. Crime didn't vanish. Pain didn't disappear. But something had shifted in the way people carried their choices. A thief stole because he chose to, not because the city made him. A hero saved because she decided to, not because destiny demanded it. Bruce Wayne stood on the cathedral rooftop where it had all begun. The cowl hung at his side. Gotham stretched below, ugly and beautiful and his, not by fate, but by choice. You're leaving, he said without turning. Lucifer materialized beside him, white suit finally showing wrinkles, eyes carrying a weariness that spanned eons. My work here is done. You never planned to stay. I never plan anything. That's rather the point. Bruce turned to face him. You could have stopped the entity yourself. Yes. Why didn't you? Lucifer smiled. Not his sharp, knowing smile, but something gentler. Because the victory would have been mine, not yours. And victory only means something when you choose to win. Below, the city murmured with the sound of 7 million people making decisions. Good, bad, complicated, real. What happens now? Bruce asked. Whatever you decide. Lucifer began to fade. That was always the answer. I just made it harder to ignore. Will you come back? Lucifer paused, already half transparent. Only if you try to give the responsibility away. Then he was gone. Bruce stood alone on the rooftop for a long time. Then he pulled on the cowl and dropped into the darkness, not because he had to, because he chose to. Epilogue. The universe didn't exhale when Lucifer left. It moved, not forward, not back, just differently. Choices rippled, consequences accumulated, stories continued, but their endings stayed unwritten. Darkseid sat on his throne, Omega energy dim, wrestling with a question he'd never had to ask. Why do I conquer? The Joker stood in Arkham, staring at a wall, smile finally absent. He didn't know what he'd become. For the first time, that felt like potential instead of void. Superman flew slower, savoring every rescue, feeling the weight of each decision. Hope had become heavier and more precious. Diana trained with her sisters, teaching them that the god's silence wasn't abandonment. It was trust. And Batman watched over Gotham, no longer fighting destiny, just fighting, because that's what he chose. Far beyond dimensions, in a place that had no name because names implied limitations, Lucifer Morningstar sat alone. He thought about the universe he'd visited, the heroes who'd chosen to be heroes, the villains who'd been forced to admit they were choosing too. He smiled. Not his sharp smile, not his knowing smile, just a smile. Interesting, he murmured. Then he turned his attention elsewhere, because universes were infinite, and choice was the only story worth telling. The end.